The readings today are so rich, and they speak to everyone who listens to them. Whether you're a child, there was something God was speaking to you, how to respect your parents and acknowledge them. And whether you're parents, the readings talks about your responsibility as parents towards your children. But I want to spend some time this morning, as I always do, to reflect on today's gospel reading. The story of Jesus getting lost, and his parents could not find him. It took 3 days before they found Jesus. And as expected, his mother panicked, and his father as well. And I'd like to begin by saying, no parent, and I'm sure those of you who are listening to me this morning will agree with me, ever wants to be in Mary's shoes. But you've all been there at one time or the other. You've been there when your kids decided at some point, thinking they know better, and they end up making poor choices. And like Mary, you panicked. You panicked because as parents, you know that protecting your children is a responsibility that God has given you. And not only protecting them, but guiding them through life. But one thing Mary didn't realize was that Jesus was not the one making a poor decision here. Jesus was not the one who got lost in the temple. And this is going to sound really strange to your ears. Who made a poor decision in today's gospel reading? It wasn't Jesus. Guess who? It was Mary. Someone needs to grow up in the gospel reading, and of course it's not Jesus. It was a poor decision because Mary put herself and Joseph at the center of Jesus' life. That was a poor decision. When Mary found Jesus in the temple, she said to him, "Where have you been, child? Your father and I did not survive angel visits, birth in a manger, and living like refugees in Egypt, only to lose you in Jerusalem." Looking back at the story, you will conclude that the 12-year-old, of course, is the one who needs to grow up. Because Mary was probably in your eyes an adult, and Joseph as well. But I beg to disagree this morning. That's not the case for me. Mary and Joseph were the ones that needed to grow up. I say this because growing up is not only about age. There are so many other things that growing up entails. Apart from age, growing up entails letting go. And if you listen to Jesus' response to Mary, that's exactly what he wanted her to learn. That in order to grow up, the first thing you need to do is to let go. Let go of what you are familiar with and embrace what God is throwing at you. And Jesus' answer to Mary's worry was an answer that helped Mary to let go. That answer proved to Mary that yes, the boy Jesus was born by Mary, but the boy Jesus belongs to God. Jesus wanted to teach Mary how to let go, because letting go helps us situate God at the center of our lives. If you listen to Mary's worry, her comment when she found Jesus, you discover that she put herself at the center of it. She said, "Your father and I have been looking for you." But Jesus wanted Mary to situate God at the center of his story, and not Mary or Joseph. And situating God at the center of it all helps us to look at the problem from a different angle. Letting go is hard, but it's part of growth. And as parents, you know that that's one of the hardest jobs that you have to do or hardest aspect of being parents when it's time for your kids to leave. And when I say leave, I'm not only saying leaving physically, but when they get to that age where they can make decisions for themselves. It's really hard for parents. But it's really hard for any human being because that's part of growth. Why is letting go so hard? Because it involves moving. It involves leaving. And what do we leave? We leave our old ways of thinking and behaving. And when you leave something, you only leave so that you can embrace something better. When God calls us to let go, He calls us to move. And it's very interesting that this gospel reading happens. We get to read it just at the end of a year. I guess it's there for us so that we can start prepping ourselves for what needs to go in the new year. Letting go means moving somewhere. And oftentimes it means moving to a new home. And I'm not saying just a home built with hands, but I'm talking about moving to a better home, which is God's kingdom. And moving to new ways. God asks us, or Jesus asks us, the same thing He asks of His mother in today's gospel reading. But the difficulty of moving to a new home is because it requires us to leave an old home that we've been so used to. And I'd like to talk about some of the homes that we live in presently. We live in homes of fear. We live in homes of shame. We live in homes of anger. Some live in homes of grief. Some of us live in homes where we're told that we don't matter. Some of us live in homes where we continue to be hurt. We live in homes where we feel we're not good enough. And no matter what we do, we're just not good enough. Some of us live, if not all of us, live in homes of sin. And because we live in homes of sin, we also live in homes of guilt and of shame. And worse still, I'm sure all of us live in this particular home. We live in homes of envy, unforgiveness, and homes of pride. The sad aspect of living in homes like this, and as I talk, I'm sure you can situate yourself in one or even all of the homes I've just mentioned. But the sad aspect of it is that these homes keep us little. We remain small. Our vision remains very narrow, and our world remains empty. We can't find joy. But unfortunately, we become so comfortable in these homes. And comfortable probably is not the right word, but unfortunately, that's the reality. But God says to us, as He says to Mary in His response to, as Jesus responds to Mary's worry today, that these homes that we live in are not the homes that God has come to offer us. That's not why He came at Christmas. Actually, He came at Christmas to shatter the doors of those homes and to release us from those homes. Even if, because of life's poor decisions or by a stroke of bad luck, we're born into these homes, we do not have to stay there. And so Jesus invites us, like He invited His mother and His foster father in today's gospel reading. He invites us to a new home. And He invites us to a home that He knows so well. It was a home He lived in before He came here on earth. He invites us to a home where we can discover ourselves better, where we no longer need to hide. He invites us to a home where we can feel loved and not judged. And so my question for you this morning, and I asked myself this same question when I was putting my thoughts together, why do we then continue to pay rent in a place that impoverishes us when we can move freely to a new home that is rent-free, and yet we can feel loved in it? Jesus invites us to a home where the banquet is set, And he says, there are many rooms in my Father's house. And guess what those rooms are named? One room is named a room of forgiveness. Another room is named the room of mercy. Another room is named the room of joy. Another one is named the room of beauty. Another room is named the room of compassion. That is the home he invites us. And he just wonders why we will not move, because we're so comfortable in a home, like I said earlier on, that keeps us limited and so little. I'd like to end my homily by rephrasing Jesus' response to his mother in today's gospel reading. And I'll put it this way. Mary said, "Child, why have you treated us like this?" And so each one of us say the same to Jesus. Why have you treated us like this? Guess what his response is this morning? Jesus says, I have treated you like this because I love you. I love you enough to want you to grow up. I love you enough to want you to find you when you are lost. I love you enough to want to bring you to a new home in my Father's house, a new home where you can feel loved.